It's the kind of news that stops you mid-scroll and makes you clutch your chest. Atlanta's hip-hop scene is reeling, fans are gasping for air, and the Frost family, they're barely holding it together. Word is spreading faster than wildfire. Kelsie Frost's rumored boyfriend, rapper T-Hood, has been shot, and this time, it wasn't just a close call. Sources say the 27-year-old artist, known for his gritty trap beats and unapologetic attitude, lost his life in a sudden and violent act that's left everyone asking the same question: who would dare? The streets are buzzing with whispers, the blogs are spinning theories, and Instagram has turned into a digital candlelight vigil. But behind the headlines and hashtags is a storm brewing within the Frost household. Kirk Frost, the seasoned love and hip-hop star and Kelsie's father, is said to be furious not just about the tragedy, but about secrets Kelsie kept that might have changed everything. She didn't tell us the whole truth, an insider claims, hinting at tensions that had been simmering long before that fatal night. Was this just a tragic accident, or was there a target on T-Hood's back all along? The answers might tear the Frost family apart, and you won't believe the twists still to come. The news broke just before midnight, and it was chaos from the moment the first Instagram Live popped up with the sirens blaring in the background. People claimed they saw the yellow tape, the flashing lights, and Kelsie herself standing on the curb, her face pale and her hands trembling as officers tried to push back the small crowd forming outside the block where T-Hood was found. He'd been shot multiple times, the echoes of the gunfire still ringing in neighbors' ears, and by the time the ambulance pulled away, whispers were already swirling about who could have done it. For the rest of Atlanta, it was just another night where the city lost another artist to the streets. But for the Frost family, this was about to blow open a vault of secrets they'd been keeping shut for far too long. Kelsie hadn't exactly made it official with T-Hood in public. Their photos together were rare, their captions cryptic, and whenever the topic came up around her father, she'd brush it off like they were just friends. But those who were close knew better. T-Hood was in and out of her life for years. A constant figure when times were rough, and someone she'd defended fiercely when her parents said he was trouble. Now he was gone, and the guilt in her eyes was unmistakable. Kirk was out of town when the call came in. A friend of T-Hood's, almost out of breath, told him what happened. "Man, you better get down here. It's bad, real bad." The first thing Kirk asked was where Kelsie was. But the silence on the other end was all he needed to know. She was right there, caught in the middle of it. By the time he made it back, the cameras were already outside their gate, and reporters were shoving mics toward the family, hoping for a comment. But Kirk wasn't talking. He marched straight inside, looking for his daughter. She was in her room, sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through photos on her phone. The sound of her father's footsteps made her look up, and for a moment, there was a flicker of hope in her face. Hope that he might comfort her, that he might understand. But Kirk's expression was cold. "Why am I hearing about your boyfriend from the damn news, Kelsie?" he demanded, his voice low but shaking with anger. She started to speak, but he cut her off. "And don't you tell me he wasn't your boyfriend. I've seen enough." Her mother, Rashida, stepped in before things escalated, placing a hand on Kirk's arm. "She's grieving, Kirk," she said softly. But Kirk wasn't letting it go. "Grieving? She's been sneaking around with someone who clearly had enemies, and now he's dead. You know what that means? That means somebody out there might come looking for her next." His words hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, Kelsie's eyes filled with tears. She tried to explain that she loved him, that he wasn't as reckless as people thought, that whatever happened that night wasn't about some gang beef or old street drama. But even she couldn't deny the truth. T-Hood had been making waves lately, and not all of them were good. Friends of the rapper told anyone who would listen that he'd been arguing with someone just days before the shooting. It was heated, one source said, like shouting in the middle of the street. Heated. "I told him to chill, but he just brushed it off." Another person claimed T-Hood had been worried about being followed, small details that didn't seem important until now. Kelsie knew about some of it, but not all, and that's what haunted her most. What if she could have stopped him from going out that night? What if she'd told him to stay? Meanwhile, social media had turned into a frenzy. Fans flooded T-Hood's last post with crying emojis and ripped messages, but the comment sections quickly turned messy when rumors started. Some said it was a robbery gone wrong. Others swore it was personal. And then there were the conspiracy theories, wild accusations about rival crews, jealous exes, and even claims that someone close to him might have set him up. Every new theory pulled Kelsie deeper into the storm, and the family's phones wouldn't stop ringing. Late that night, Rashida found her daughter curled up on the couch, still in the same clothes she'd worn to the scene. She sat beside her, pulling her close. "Baby, I know you're hurting," she whispered, "but you've got to tell us everything. If there's something we don't know, now's the time." Kelsie hesitated, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her hoodie. "There's something," she admitted. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "He told me 2 weeks ago that he thought somebody was trying to scare him, like he'd been getting these messages. Anonymous, just threats. I told him to go to the police, but he said it was nothing." Rashida's eyes widened. "Kelsie, why didn't you tell us this before?" But before Kelsie could answer, Kirk appeared in the doorway. His jaw tightened. "Because she thought she could handle it herself. Well, look where that got us." The words stung, and Kelsie's tears finally spilled over. "It's not my fault," she shot back, her voice breaking. "You never even gave him a chance. You always judged him before you knew him." The tension between them was electric, the kind that made everyone else in the room hold their breath. Over the next few days, the investigation deepened. Detectives came by to question Kelsie, asking about Tehude's recent movements, his friends, his enemies. Each question felt like a dagger, because she realized she didn't have all the answers. The last time they spoke, they'd argued, not about anything serious, just stupid stuff. Now, she replayed that moment over and over, wishing she'd ended it differently. Kirk, meanwhile, couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than what the police were saying. He'd been around long enough to know that in their world, nothing was ever as simple as it seemed. At the funeral, the air was thick with grief and tension. Kelsie sat in the front row, her eyes fixed on the casket, while whispers rippled through the crowd behind her. Kirk stood a few steps back, watching carefully, noting every unfamiliar face. When a group of men in dark hoodies walked in late, his gut told him they weren't just there to pay respects. One of them locked eyes with Kelsie for just a second too long, and Kirk's instincts screamed trouble. He made a mental note to find out exactly who they were. After the service, as people gathered outside, one of Tehude's closest friends, Rico, pulled Kelsie aside. His voice was urgent. "Look, I don't know how much you know, but T was into something. Something big. He was trying to get out, but they weren't gonna let him just walk away. You need to be careful. And so does your family." Kelsie felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean? Who's they?" But Rico just shook his head. "The less you know, the better." When she got home that night, she couldn't sleep. Every shadow outside her window felt like a threat. Every car that slowed down near the house made her heart race. Kirk noticed, too, and though he was still angry, he started taking extra precautions, double-checking the locks, installing more security cameras, making sure someone was always home. Rashida tried to keep the peace, but the tension was like a constant hum in the background. The grief was one thing. The fear was something else entirely. And then, just when they thought things might calm down, a new twist hit like a punch to the gut. An anonymous DM landed in Kelsie's inbox with just 3 words. "You're next, Princess." Kelsie froze, staring at those 3 words on her phone screen like they might come alive and crawl off the glass. Her chest felt tight, her fingers numb. The message had no profile picture, no posts, nothing to trace, just a blank account that had been created hours earlier. She immediately locked her phone, but it was too late. Her hands were already shaking. She glanced toward her bedroom door, half expecting someone to be standing there. When she finally found her voice, it came out in a whisper. "Dad." Kirk was in the kitchen going through security footage when she walked in. He turned, his expression shifting instantly when he saw her face. "What happened?" She handed him the phone, and for a moment, there was silence. Then his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscles working. "You should have told me sooner if anything like this was happening," he snapped. But his voice was quieter now, less angry and more protective. "This changes everything. This changes everything." Rashida came in from the living room, catching the tail end of the tension. "What's going on?" Kirk held up the phone, and her eyes widened. "Oh my God, Kelsie, when did you get this?" Kelsie explained, her voice trembling, that it had just popped up. She hadn't even opened it fully. The preview alone was enough to make her panic. Kirk didn't waste time. He grabbed his own phone and called someone. Kelsie didn't recognize the number. But whoever answered, he clearly trusted. "I need you to check an account for me. Now." "No, I don't care how you do it. Just find out where it came from." His tone was all business, no hesitation. Meanwhile, word of the funeral had spread online, and clips were circulating, showing Kelsie standing near a group of men in hoodies. The comments section was ruthless, with strangers spinning stories about how she was connected to them, claiming she looked guilty or knew more than she was saying. Kelsie tried to ignore it, but every ding of a notification was another reminder that the entire city, maybe the whole country, was watching her. "They're painting me like I'm part of this," she said to Rashida, her voice breaking. "Like I set him up or something." Rashida hugged her tightly, murmuring, "People will say anything to fill in the blanks they don't understand. You know the truth, that's what matters." But even Rashida couldn't shake the unease creeping into the edges of her mind. 2 days later, Kirk got a call back from his contact. "The account's burner," the voice said, frustration in every word. "No name, no IP, we can trace. Whoever sent it knows how to cover their tracks. This isn't some random troll. This is deliberate." Kirk thanked him and hung up, his mind already racing. If this was deliberate, that meant someone had an agenda. And given the timing right after Teehud's death, it didn't take much to connect the dots. He walked into the living room where Kelsie and Rashida were talking quietly. "Pack a bag," he said flatly. "We're leaving tonight." Kelsie looked up, startled. "Leaving? Where?" Kirk didn't answer directly. "Someplace safe. Away from here? At least until I figure out who's behind this." But Kelsie shook her head. "I'm not running away. This is my home, and I'm not gonna hide like I did something wrong." Her defiance caught him off guard. She had his stubbornness, no doubt about it. "This isn't about pride," he said sharply. "This is about staying alive." That night, Kirk's instincts were proven right. As the family sat down to a late dinner, one of the outdoor security cameras caught movement, a figure in a dark hoodie, lingering at the end of the driveway. The person didn't approach the house but seemed to be watching. Kirk immediately got up, checking the feed, but by the time he stepped outside, the figure was gone. He didn't tell Kelsie right away, no point in making her more anxious, but inside, his resolve hardened. This wasn't just about protecting his daughter anymore. This was about sending a message back to whoever thought they could scare her. The next day a knock came at the door. It was Rico, the same friend who had warned Kelsie at the funeral. He looked over his shoulder before stepping in, his voice low. "I heard something last night. There's talk in the streets that T was about to drop a track that was gonna call out some people by name, heavy hitters. If that's true, then his death. It wasn't random." Kelsie's stomach twisted. She remembered Teehud mentioning new music, but he never said anything about it being controversial. "Do you know who?" Kirk demanded, but Rico just shook his head. "Names floating around, but nothing solid. All I know is, if they think Kelsie knows anything about it, she's in danger." That night, Kelsie couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made her jump. She kept replaying her last conversation with Teehud in her mind, the way he'd brushed off her concerns. The way he'd smiled like nothing could touch him. But now she wondered if he'd been hiding the truth to protect her. Or if he'd underestimated just how far his enemies would go. By 3 a.m., she was pacing her room, her mind spiraling. She thought about calling one of her friends just to hear a familiar voice, but she stopped herself. Who could she trust now? The following afternoon, while Rashida was out running errands and Kirk was in the studio, Kelsie's phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something made her answer. A distorted voice came through, muffled like it was coming from a cheap voice changer. "You think your daddy can protect you? He can't. Nobody can." Her heart raced. "Who is this?" she demanded, but the line went dead. She stood there, frozen, until her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from the same number. "Stay out of it or you'll end up like him." By the time Kirk got home, Kelsie was pacing the living room, tears in her eyes, and her phone clutched in her hand. "They called me," she blurted out. "They actually called me." He took the phone, reading the message with a stormy expression. "That's it," he said. "We're going to the police." But Kelsie grabbed his arm. "No. If we go to the cops, it'll make it worse. You know how this works. They'll think I'm snitching. And then..." Her voice trailed off, but Kirk knew she was right. In their world, even the appearance of cooperating with the police could be dangerous. As the days passed, tensions inside the Frost household reached a breaking point. Rashida was caught in the middle, trying to keep Kelsie safe while calming Kirk's growing anger. But Kirk wasn't just angry at the threats, he was angry at himself for not seeing the danger sooner. One night, over dinner, he looked at Kelsie and said, "You might hate me for saying this, but I wish you never met him." The words cut deep, and Kelsie pushed her plate away. "You don't get it," she shot back. "He was the only one who understood me. He was more than just some rapper. He was my best friend." My voice cracked before she could finish. Before either of them could say more, Rashida's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then her face went pale. "Kirk, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward him. It was a photo posted on a private page, showing a blurry shot of their house from across the street. The caption read, "She's still here." Kirk stared at the photo like it was a live threat instead of something on a screen. His blood boiled, the protective father in him, battling with the calculated businessman who knew better than to make rash moves. But this crossed every line. He grabbed his keys without a word, storming toward the door. But Rashida stepped in his path. "Kirk, think about what you're doing. You don't even know who posted it." His voice came out low and dangerous. "I don't care who posted it. They were outside our house. That means they're close. Too close." Kelsie stood frozen near the couch, her heart pounding. "Please don't go looking for them," she said, her voice almost breaking. "That's what they want. They want you to lose it and make a mistake." Kirk stopped for a second, breathing hard, then dropped his keys on the counter. "Fine," he said, "but we're not sitting here waiting for them to make the next move." He spent the rest of the night on the phone, calling contacts who owed him favors, people who knew how to get information that didn't show up in police reports. Every so often, he'd glance toward Kelsie, who sat curled up on the couch scrolling through photos of her and Tehood, snapshots of happier times that now felt like scenes from someone else's life. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. This time, it wasn't a threat, it was Tehood's cousin, Malik. Tall, broad-shouldered, and visibly upset. Malik wasted no time getting to the point. "I know you're all getting threats," he said. "I got one too. But mine came with a name." Kirk leaned forward. "Whose name?" Malik hesitated before speaking. "Deshaun. They call him D-Lock in the streets. He and T had history, bad history. They used to run together until T started talking about going legit. D-Lock didn't like that, said you can't just walk away. And now." His voice trailed off, but the implication hung in the air like smoke. Kelsie felt a chill run down her spine. She remembered Tehood mentioning someone named D-Lock once, but it was in passing, just another name in a long list of people he'd grown up with. Now, it seemed that name might be the key to everything. Kirk stood up, pacing the room. If this is true, then we're dealing with somebody who's not afraid to send a message. And if he thinks Kelsie knows anything. He didn't finish the sentence, he didn't have to. That afternoon, Rashida convinced Kelsie to go with her to the boutique, just to get out of the house for a while. "You can't sit inside forever," she said gently. "You need fresh air, and besides, I could use your help." Kelsie reluctantly agreed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on her the entire time. Every customer who lingered too long in the store made her uneasy. Every car that slowed down outside caught her attention. At one point, she ducked into the back room just to breathe. When they got home, Kirk was waiting with news. "I've got someone looking into D-Lock," he said, "and I've got a meet lined up with one of his old crew tomorrow night. Quiet place. I want answers." Rashida immediately pushed back. "No, absolutely not. You're not dragging us deeper into this. Let the police handle it." But Kirk shook his head. "The police don't care about street politics. They'll file a report and move on. I'm not taking that chance." The following night, Kirk kept his word. He met a man known as Stax in a dimly lit backlot, behind a closed car wash. Stax was nervous, glancing over his shoulder as he spoke. "Look, I ain't saying I know for sure, but word is, D-Lock was pissed about that new track T was working on. Said it had names in it, including his. Said if T dropped it, he'd be done for. Next thing I hear, T's gone." Kirk pressed for more, but Stax clammed up. "That's all I'm saying. Man, you didn't hear it from me." Meanwhile, back at the Frost house, Kelsie was scrolling through her DMs when she saw something strange. An old message from Tehood that she'd never noticed before. It was dated 2 days before his death and simply read, "If something happens to me, check the white USB in my safe." Her breath caught. She remembered the small fireproof safe he kept in his closet, but she had no idea how to open it. She called Rico immediately. Do you know where T's safe is? She asked. Rico sounded uneasy. Yeah. Why? Kelsie told him about the message, and after a pause, he said, meet me tomorrow. I'll get it for you. But don't tell anyone else? The next day, she met Rico at a quiet park on the edge of the city. He handed her the safe, a small heavy box that felt colder than it should in her hands. Be careful, he warned. If what's in there is what I think it is, people are gonna come looking for it. She took it home and waited until everyone was asleep before opening it. Inside, there was a single white USB drive, nothing else. She plugged it into her laptop, her heart pounding, and clicked on the only file it contained. It was a rough cut of a track she'd never heard before, but the lyrics made her blood run cold. T-Hood wasn't just calling people out, he was naming names, telling stories that painted some very dangerous men in a bad light. And in the middle of it, there was a direct reference to Delok, accusing him of setting up friends and even being involved in past murders. It was explosive, the kind of thing that could get someone killed. And now she had it. She sat there, staring at the screen, when her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a text or a DM, it was a live video request from an anonymous account. Against her better judgment, she clicked accept. The feed opened to a masked face in a dark room. The voice was deep, distorted, and unmistakably threatening. You've got something that doesn't belong to you, the figure said. Give it back, and maybe we'll let this go. Kelsie's breath hitched. Who are you? She demanded, but the figure only tilted their head. We're watching, they said. Don't make us come to you. The screen went black. She slammed the laptop shut, her pulse racing, and ran to her parents' room. Kirk was instantly alert when he saw her face. What happened? She told him everything, the USB, the song, the call. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every detail. When she finished, he nodded once. All right, he said quietly. Now we know why they're coming after you. And now we know what we're gonna do about it. Kirk's "we're gonna do something about it" wasn't just a figure of speech. By the next morning, he was on the phone, setting up a meeting with someone he hadn't spoken to in years. An old associate known as Big Tone. A man who had one foot in the music world and the other in places the law didn't reach. Rashida overheard just enough to know she didn't like where this was going. Kirk, you promised me when all this reality TV mess started that you were done with that side of things, she said sharply. He didn't look up from his phone. This is about our daughter, not TV. Kelsie sat silently at the kitchen table, clutching the USB like it was both a weapon and a curse. She didn't know whether handing it over would make her safe or mark her forever. Rico called later that day, sounding more nervous than usual. I heard about that video call, he said. Kelsie, you can't just sit on that file. That's not something you can hide from people like Delok. She bit her lip. So what do I do? Give it back to them so they can bury it. Rico's silence was answer enough. That night, Kirk drove Kelsie to meet Big Tone at an empty recording studio on the outskirts of town. Tone was a massive man with a slow, deliberate way of speaking, and he listened without interruption as Kirk laid everything out, the threats, the name Delok, the USB, and the masked warning. Tone finally leaned back, rubbing his chin. If this file is real, then Delok's got reason to take you out just to make sure nobody hears it. But if it's as bad as you say, it's also your leverage. Problem is, leverage cuts both ways. You could trade it, or you could release it. Kelsie's head snapped up. Release it. That would make things worse. Tone gave a small shrug. Or it ends him before he can end you. Sometimes the only way to survive is to make your enemies too busy defending themselves to come for you. Kirk shook his head. That's not how I want my daughter living. But Kelsie was thinking. Deep down, she knew T-Hood left that file for a reason. The next day, Rashida found her in the living room, headphones on, replaying the track over and over. You don't have to carry this by yourself, Rashida said gently. We can figure something out together. Kelsie's voice was quiet but firm. Mama, I think T wanted me to put it out. He knew it would blow up. He knew it would force the truth out. Rashida's eyes widened. And what about your safety? What about our family? Kelsie looked away. Maybe the only way to be safe is to stop hiding. That night, Kirk got a call from Malik. His voice was tense. Kirk, you need to know Delok's people are saying they're coming for Kelsie, not to scare her, but to silence her. Word is they know she's got something. Kirk's jaw clenched. Thanks, Malik, I'll handle it. But as soon as he hung up, Kelsie told him she'd already made up her mind. The following morning, a mysterious Instagram account posted a 20-second snippet of T-Hood's unreleased track. The same file from the USB. The video was just the audio playing over a still photo of T-Hood with the words, "The truth won't die with me." Within minutes, it was being reposted by blogs, fans, and major hip-hop pages. By noon, it was viral. Comments flooded in. "This is why they killed him. Kelsie is brave AF. D-Lock's days are numbered." That night, the Frost house felt like a fortress. Kirk had friends patrolling the block. Rashida was on the phone with anyone she thought could help. And Kelsie stayed close to home. But the blowback was immediate. An SUV was spotted idling outside for nearly an hour. Strange cars drove slowly past. Then, just after midnight, a brick came crashing through the front window with a note attached. "Last warning." Kirk grabbed his gun and stormed outside, but the SUV at the end of the block sped off before he could get close. Rashida was shaking with anger. "This is insane. We can't live like this," she shouted. Kelsie sat on the couch, staring at the brick. Face pale, but her voice steady. "If they're this scared, then the song is doing its job." The next day, Tone called with news. D-Lock's been laying low since that clip dropped. Word is, some of his own crew are questioning him now. "You might have just started something he can't stop." Kirk felt a flicker of relief, but it didn't last because later that evening, they got the call they'd been half expecting and dreading at the same time. It was Malik again, his voice urgent. "Kirk, Kelsie, you need to get out of the house. Now. They're saying D-Lock's gonna make his move tonight." The Frosts didn't wait to argue. Kirk grabbed the essentials. Rashida packed a quick bag, and they piled into the car. As they pulled away, Kelsie looked back at the house she'd grown up in, wondering if she'd ever feel safe there again. They spent the night at a hotel under an alias, but Kelsie's phone buzzed just before dawn. It was an anonymous text. "You think this is over? We're still watching." She showed it to Kirk, who took the phone and smashed it against the wall. "From now on, we control the communication." No more surprises. 2 days later, the rest of T-Hood's song leaked online, not from Kelsie, but from an unknown source. It exploded across streaming platforms, sparking outrage, street rumors, and calls for justice. The track named more than just D-Lock. It hinted at corruption in the music industry, shady deals, and old murders. Bloggers called it the most dangerous diss track in years. The public reaction shifted almost overnight. Instead of targeting Kelsie, people started targeting D-Lock, demanding answers. The police even announced they were looking into certain allegations raised in the song. Tone called Kirk with a note of satisfaction. "Looks like the heat's off you and on him now. Might be time to let this play out." For Kelsie, it was bittersweet. She'd lost T-Hood and nothing could change that, but she also felt like she'd honored him in the only way she could, by making sure his truth didn't get buried. Sitting in the hotel room, she told Rashida quietly, "I just hope it was worth it." Rashida pulled her into a hug. "If it keeps you alive and gets justice for T, it's worth everything." A week later, they returned home. The neighborhood was quieter, the SUV was gone, and the tension in the air had eased, but the Frosts knew the storm wasn't over. Rumors swirled that D-Lock had skipped town, while others claimed he was gearing up for retaliation. Kelsie kept a low profile, but every time her phone buzzed, her stomach tightened. Late one night, as she scrolled through photos of her and T-Hood, she got one last message from an unknown number. It simply read, "This isn't finished." She stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without replying, because deep down, she knew in the world T-Hood came from, nothing ever really ended. It just went quiet. Until the next shot was fired. And there you have it, y'all. A story that started with whispers on the streets of Atlanta and exploded into a full-blown storm that the Frost family will never forget. From T-Hood's tragic last moments to the secrets buried deep in that mysterious USB drive. The danger, the betrayal, and the relentless chase for the truth. It's been a roller coaster that's left fans around the world shocked, heartbroken, and asking one burning question. Is this really the end? Because while Kelsie has stepped back into the shadows for now, the echoes of T-Hood's words are still shaking the industry. D-Lock's name is on everyone's lips, investigations are supposedly underway, and the streets are still buzzing with theories. Some believe the full truth hasn't even come out yet. Others say that when it does, it could destroy careers, friendships, and maybe even lives. One thing's for sure, this isn't just another celebrity tragedy. This is a cautionary tale about love, loyalty, and the dangerous line between fame and the streets. And if you think the Frost family is out of the woods, think again. That last text Kelsie received still lingers like a shadow over her life. What does "this isn't finished" really mean? Is it a threat? Or a promise? Now it's over to you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Kelsie made the right move by leaking the track? Was this justice for Teehud, or did it just paint a bigger target on her back? If you were in her shoes, what would you have done? Don't forget to hit that like button if you were hooked from the start. Subscribe for more explosive updates, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single twist. Trust me, when the next chapter drops, you'll want to be the first to know.